firing the messenger. President Trump firing the top official behind the government's jobs numbers. It is a stunning and an unprecedented move in the United States, coming just hours after the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is, around the world, the most trusted gold standard of jobs reporting numbers, issued a report that revised job growth, showing that job growth in the United States had slowed to a near halt over the past 3 months.
Mr. President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Because I think our numbers were wrong.
You said the jobs report today were rigged.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think you'll see some very interesting information come out, but we got rid of, you have to have honest reports. And when you look at those numbers, or when you look at just before the election, and then after the election, they corrected it by 800,000 or 900,000 jobs, yeah, I would say so.
Of course, just to be clear, that revision he's talking about under Biden didn't happen after the election. It happened months before it. And here are some more facts. Erica McEnterharfer is a 20-year U.S. government veteran. She was confirmed to run the BLS by the Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support. Senator J.D. Vance at the time, of course, backed her, voted for her. And to be clear, her termination tonight is for political reasons. There's no evidence the jobs numbers were manipulated as Trump is claiming. There's no one credible or serious who's saying any such thing. Today's report was bad. It did show bad numbers, not because the numbers were cooked, but because there was weakening in the economy, in large part over that 3-month period with all the uncertainty and the constantly changing tariffs and threat of 160% tariffs at some point because of the tariffs. And the chief global strategist at Principal Asset Management sums it up by writing this: the downward revisions to the past 2 months inflicts a major blow to the picture of labor market robustness. What's more concerning is that with the negative impact of tariffs only just starting to be felt, the coming months are likely to see even clearer evidence of a labor market slowdown. Now, the negative impact of tariffs only starting to be felt, we'll see because the numbers keep changing. But what happened over those past few months since Liberation Day was Trump's own doing. But of course, tonight he's firing the messenger. And as we've seen in the past, when the numbers were good, right, those very months that have now been revised downwards originally looked pretty good. And that was good for Trump politically. He wanted the world to know about them then. 30 days ago, the White House was celebrating the jobs numbers before they were revised downward today. They called it a June boom. And White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt posted on X, for the 4th month in a row, jobs numbers have beat market expectations with nearly 150,000 good jobs created in June. And even during Trump's first administration, just listen to then Press Secretary Sean Spicer when he was talking about jobs numbers that made Trump look good.
I talked to the president prior to this, and he said, to quote him very clearly, "They may have been phony in the past, but it's very real now."
Of course, everyone laughed then. Harder to laugh about things like that now. The truth is they weren't phony before Trump took office the first time. They aren't phony now. They weren't phony when he was in office. And casting doubt on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is relied upon in the United States and frankly around the world by government, private entities, businesses, all around the world, that can destroy trust in American institutions and in government statistics, which threatens the very core of what makes America the greatest, biggest, and most respected economy in the world. The United States puts out a jobs report every month, whether it's good or not. It does rely on some estimates. It revises the reports based on new data. And when you see big, major changes like you saw today, it comes when there is a major shift in the economy. And what happened on Liberation Day is the definition of major. And the BLS is an independent agency. It functions regardless of who the president is. Hundreds of people are involved in that data. You can't rig and cook the books. Yet the president of the United States is now putting question marks around one of the great independent institutions in America because he didn't like the numbers.
Going forward, why should anyone trust the numbers?
Well, that's
And
the
if
big
you're-
thing.
You're right. No, you're right. Why should anybody trust numbers? So you know what I did? I fired her.
Right.
Why should anybody trust the numbers? He should be proud that the United States has the most respected numbers and statistics people believe in, unlike China, where they say, oh, things are so great and nobody believes them because they know that the numbers aren't real there. Jeff Zeleny is out front live at the White House to begin our coverage. And Jeff, this is a major escalation in Trump's effort to shape the government in his image, right? When you talk about firing people for political purposes, the first person that comes to mind is not going to be the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Here we are. What more are you learning?
Aaron, we are learning that the president was troubled by the economic numbers, as we saw, and for several hours said nothing. That was unusual in and of itself, as his top economic advisors were trying to explain away how the numbers were not as bad as some analysts were saying. It's particularly the revisions, I'm told, in May and June that really got the president's attention and caused anger. So he decided to do something he cannot do with Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve. He can fire her. He asked his aides if he could get rid of her, and they said yes. She does serve at the pleasure of the president. She was appointed, of course, by President Biden. But as you said, she was confirmed in the Senate by a vote of 86-8. That does not happen routinely. It was J.D. Vance, but also Marco Rubio, now the Secretary of State. So there is no sign in her history that there's any type of politics involved here. In fact, these are always apolitical reports. But the narrative that was being set in that the economy was not as good as the president would like was not acceptable to the president. So he started a new narrative today. Rigged numbers. Where does that sound? It sounds familiar, right? He said that that the process was cooked. So we asked the president on the South Lawn just a short time ago, as he left the White House to head to his Bedminster Golf Resort for the weekend, what evidence is there that the numbers are rigged? And he did not point to any new evidence. So the bottom line here is this is going to set a precedent that these numbers may not be believable. But is Congress going to investigate? Some former members of the BLS are saying that Congress should investigate. Of course, Congress is largely at recess, so the Senate is still in town. We will see. But Aaron, for all of the firings, this rings a bit different because it's the reputation of the U.S. But the bottom line, the economic numbers are what they are. And that does not change at all, regardless of who is leading the BLS. Aaron?
No, it absolutely doesn't. Of course, the lack of confidence, such a concern. Thank you, Jeff Zeleny.
Sure.
And out front now, Neel Kashkari, President and CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. And President Kashkari, I appreciate your time tonight. I mean, an unprecedented firing of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The jobs report was obviously very disappointing. What's your reaction to this response? Bad jobs report, fire the head of the jobs numbers.
Well, I have to, I can't really comment on the president's personnel decisions. That's up to the president. We at the Fed obviously lean on and rely on the best economic data we can get, both from government sources like the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and private sector sources to inform us in the economy. And so, we want the best data we possibly can get. Now, I'm not that surprised that the labor market is slowing. The data was worse than I had expected, but when tariffs go up, you expect prices to go up and the economy to slow, and we're seeing both of those effects. Goods prices are going up and the economy is slowing, and that's a real challenge for the Fed and for any central bank.
So you talk about needing to trust the numbers as you make decisions at the Fed, right? At the Fed, the decision about interest rates, nothing more important for the economy. So the president today said that the reason he's firing the head of the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is that she was manipulating the jobs data for, quote, political purposes. Do you see any evidence of that there was politically motivated manipulation of the data?
Well, the data that I've looked at, which is both the BLS data, private sector data, and then we talked to companies all across the country, it all basically says the same thing, that companies have been very cautious about hiring because of all of the uncertainty that we've been under. If you look at the wage growth, both private and government, measures of wage growth of the average worker in America, wage growth has also been gradually declining. So all of these together point to the same thing, which is a gently softening labor market. And so that tells me that's probably what's really happening in the economy.
So I guess if when he uses the word rigged and scam, I guess it would assume that everybody's in on it, certainly not just the BLS. And I'm not trying to be tongue-in-cheek about it, but I'm just making a point. Obviously, you're saying this is consistent with all the other data sources you're looking at. So Trump is celebrating the resignation of one of your colleagues, one of the 7 members of the Fed's Board of Governors, Adriana Kugler. Obviously, she happened to be a Biden appointee. unexpectedly just stepping down early. So you had the firing of the BLS today, then this happened. And perhaps they weren't intended to be related, but here they are happening the same day. Trump's going to get the vacancy to fill here. But as I said, he just said, he's celebrating this, saying that she wasn't willing to lower interest rates like too late Powell, as he refers to the chairman of the Federal Reserve. So what do you make of her stepping aside and what it creates here?
Well, I didn't know Governor Kugler, Adriana Kugler, is a very respected colleague of mine who I've enjoyed working with. I did not know that she was going to resign. I know, of course, that she was not at the FOMC meeting this week, and so I look forward to chatting with her at some point. I think it just brings forward. We knew that the governor served 14-year staggered terms. We knew that Governor Kugler's term expired at the end of January, and so the president would have the opportunity to fill that vacancy then. This, of course, brings that forward several months. So that's the surprise, but the fact that the president would have a chance to make his own appointments, that's not surprising.